Thank you so much, Dean. You know, I'm married to an orthopedic surgeon, and now that I am a doctor, I have been making a lot of jokes, and I told him recently, someone called asking for Dr. Hostin, and I sort of held the phone and I said, oh my goodness, I don't know who they're asking for. It could be you, it could be me. And he doesn't think it's funny, but I do, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. Wow, you know, I'm going to do what I never get to do at work. I'm going to speak for more than 12 seconds without being interrupted. In honor of this rare event, I want to use my voice to speak to you, the 2018 graduates of my alma mater, Binghamton University, Harpur College. I want to speak to you about your voice, about the power of it, and more than that, the need for it, and I mean that. The world needs your voice, and that goes for every single one of you. The world needs your voice for two reasons. First, the world needs you to use your voice to speak for others. For those people who don't have a voice, or at least who have less of a voice than you do. Second, the world needs your voice to speak to people who are different from you, so that when you speak, they learn. These people don't have your perspective, and they can't get it without you speaking, and without you listening. So the world needs your voice. 21 years ago, the famed journalist Barbara Walters thought it would be a pretty good idea to get 5 women together, all from different backgrounds, different ages, different points of view, who don't agree with each other on just about anything. Sitting around a table on national television with cameras and lights to discuss hot topics. The hotter and more volatile, the better. And the conversation had to be informed conversation, relatable conversation, funny conversation, smart conversation, but of all else, Barbara said it had to be civil conversation. And this, to her mind, was the recipe for a hit television show. Okay, did I mention that the women are from different perspectives, different backgrounds, different ages, different points of view, and that they don't agree on anything? Take, for example, the current cast. The moderator, Whoopi Goldberg. Yes, Whoopi. She is in her 60s. She's an African-American woman. She is self-taught, believe it or not. She did not go to high school. She didn't finish 8th grade because of her dyslexia. She is an award-winning actress. You've seen her. Color Purple, Jumpin' Jack Flash, Lion King, Ghost, Star Trek. She's an EGOT. That means she's only one of 12 people who have won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, a Tony. She's a big deal, and she's quite opinionated. Then there's Joy Behar. She's in her 70s. Remember, all the women are of different ages. She's an Italian-American from a tenement in Brooklyn. She's a comedian. She has a foul mouth. She's an original cast member, as left-leaning as you can get. She has a crush on Bernie Sanders, and she has an extreme dislike of Donald Trump. Sarah Haynes is in her 40s. She's a new mom. She's from Iowa. She is a bucket of sunshine. She is pretty moderate. She's a dog lover. She doesn't want to offend anyone, and she wants us all to get along. And then there's Meghan McCain. She's the daughter of Senator John McCain. She is in her 30s, newly married, no children, a conservative from Arizona who grew up in politics. She's a gun-toting NRA member. She drinks whiskey and likes to brag about her ability to skin a rabbit. And then there is this lawyer who is a former federal prosecutor who's going to be 50 in October, raised in the South Bronx projects, whose father is African American, whose mother is a Puerto Rican Jew. But that lawyer happens to be Roman Catholic. It's a long story. The lawyer is socially conservative. She graduated from one of the finest universities in the country. And she doesn't hunt, doesn't own a gun, ran away from bullets, in fact, going to school in the South Bronx, and used to feed pigeons and chickens and anything that came her way. She's a real animal lover. And guess what? The women of The View don't agree on anything. And the hot topics we discuss, intentionally volatile, caliente, as I like to call it. We talk about the Donald Trump administration. We talk about the so-called fake news media, abortion, climate change, racism, healthcare, raising children, shootings in our schools, the Second Amendment, police brutality, relationships, sex. I just learned about a throuple, had no idea. And we talk about the latest feud on The Real Housewives. Apparently I am in a Twitter feud with one of the housewives. You can't make this stuff up. And then there are our guests with different views. Stormy Daniels, the porn star who allegedly had an affair with Donald Trump. Her attorney, Michael Avenatti, Senator Chuck Schumer, Jim Comey, Sarah Sanders, Joe Biden, Senator McCain, the SNL cast, J-Lo, Kim Kardashian, the housewives, the cast of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I love that movie. Yes. I mean, just to name a few. Snoop Dogg was just on our show, along with Martha Stewart. So although we don't agree on just about anything, we do it. We do it each and every day on ABC at 11 o'clock. Sometimes we do it successfully, sometimes not so much. We argue, we have discussions. We raise our voices, we are passionate, we laugh, and most importantly, we are civil, as Barbara would have it. The problem that I see in our communities, and I speak to a lot of communities and I travel often, is that we are losing our sense of civility. Along with that, I think we lose our voices. Every day, our culture entrenches itself more and more deeply into tribalism, into an us versus them mentality. We are playing the politics of otherism, and I'm sure you've seen it while you've been here at school. It seems lately that our culture encourages us to demonize the other and venerate those who we think are like us. We don't want to listen to people who don't sound or think the way we do. We want to speak in an echo chamber. We want to preach to the choir. Why? Because it's so comfortable. Well, this division takes away the power and meaning of our voices in my mind, because it encourages so many to just listen to others just like them. And many are frustrated that no one speaks for them and on behalf of them. And this is disheartening for me, because we admire so many people from history precisely because they used their voice as a bridge between divided groups. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream, which was also the dream of so many, and because he gave it a voice, eventually my mom and dad were able to get married at a time before they couldn't get married. I was able to attend this prestigious university with people of all different races and creeds and nationalities and religions and opinions. So when it feels like the culture discourages us from bridging divides, remember that history will be on your side when you do so. As Senator Schumer said, you are graduating into a world where you know technology better than anyone, and where technology gives more opportunity for your voice than ever before. A world where you can be heard even if you don't have, say, a seat on a TV show like The View. And I'm not just talking about social media, because there are some downfalls there. We all know those Twitter thugs with keyboard courage living in their mama's basement, talking to I don't know who. I'm talking about the actual physical spaces you occupy and will occupy. I'm talking about how you will go on to work at companies where you can use your voice to amplify other voices. It can be as simple as being in a meeting and gentlemen saying, "I want to hear what she thinks." Or even better yet, for those mansplainers, "I think she just said that." Yes, I've experienced that. Or you can honor your own voice when all others are against you. And you never know, you might be speaking for someone else as well. Someone who might not, for whatever reason, feel comfortable using their own voice. You can use your voice to influence products and services to benefit more people. You can use your voice to create real change among the people around you. And that's just where it starts, really. Look out, because pretty soon, and it happened to me, your voice is somehow changing the world. And I want to help that happen. So as someone whose voice shouldn't have been heard, remember, I'm a kid from the South Bronx born to teenage parents of different races in the 60s who watched her uncle stabbed in front of her, who watched her best friend's father get shot in front of our neighborhood candy store. I should have been a statistic. But here I am, speaking to all of you, the 2018 graduating class. So I'm trying to distill what I have in my mind and my experience, I want to offer 5 keys into how you can make your voice matter. First, I love who's over there. First, to make your voice matter, you must speak to the other side. Let me say that again. To make your voice matter, you must speak to the other side. Don't just preach to the choir. What I do love about The View, or what I have learned to love about The View, is that everyone's voice is heard. It's something I think that's very rare in today's world. What I've learned there is to speak to the other side, you have to practice empathy, actual role play, and Joy Behar taught me this. People with different ideas think differently, and so pretend like you're them for a moment. What do they care about? What are they worried about? Why do they think the way that they think? And listen. I had a very valuable lesson on air in front of millions of people recently. We were talking about the Second Amendment after the Parkland shooting. And you can imagine someone like me who prosecuted cases of violence against women and violence against children, who witnessed so much violence. I am not an NRA member. I am certainly against gun violence in any form. And as we discussed it, I'm discussing it with my gun-toting NRA member co-host. And she went on to talk about the Second Amendment and her view of the Second Amendment and the right to gun ownership and how it's a sacred right to so many people. And as she was talking, I was looking at the clock, and we have a clock in our studio that tells us how much time is left for a segment. And I was waiting to pounce, honestly. And when I saw there were about 30 seconds left, I said, "Really? You seem to know a lot about the Second Amendment. I learned it a little differently in law school." And then Whoopi said, "We'll be right back." And it became a meme because Megan was hurt. And for me, it was like a drop the mic moment. I thought, I shut her up. I one-upped her. But that's not what I did. I damaged our relationship. I damaged our friendship. I wasn't listening to her. I squelched her voice, and I didn't allow her to be heard. A couple of days later, Condoleezza Rice, the former Secretary of State under the Bush administration, came on our show, and she is very good friends with Megan. And she came into my dressing room and said to me, "I've been listening to this passionate discussion you all are having about the Second Amendment, and I know how you feel, and I know that you feel it is without that there are limitations on the Second Amendment, but you should know my story. Because at one point I felt, why do people have guns? Why do they have so many guns? And she said when she was a young girl growing up in Birmingham, Alabama, that the KKK started driving around her neighborhood and rounding up the guns of the African American families. And that her father and her father's friends hid those guns underneath their beds. They hid the guns in garages and in basements, and they didn't get those guns. And the next time the KKK came out to cause harm to those families, the people in those families had arms, and they stood outside of their homes on their porches, and they shot into the air, and they saved hundreds of people. And that is why, for Condoleezza Rice, gun ownership is important. Well, by listening to the other side, I changed my perspective a bit. Speaking to the other side and listening to the perspective really gives your voice true power. Key number 2. The second key to making your voice matter is speak for those who do not have a voice. Education is the great equalizer. And as Senator Schumer said, there are very few in your age group that have that education. It is an honor and it is a privilege. And with that comes great responsibility. And I truly believe that you cannot live a perfect day unless you do something for someone else who can never repay you. I truly believe that you cannot live a perfect day without doing something for someone who can never repay you. When you speak up and you speak out for someone else, it is a gift to them, but most importantly, it is a gift to you. I will never forget when I was a correspondent and analyst for CNN, and I was in Sanford, Florida, covering the Trayvon Martin case. And as a woman of color raising a child of color, a boy of color, I was intimately affected by that case. And I sat in the courtroom each and every day, and I kept on hearing about how Trayvon Martin was described as kind of a thug, gold teeth, aggressive. But I knew differently because I had done research, and I knew that he was a whiz in science and math. I knew that he wanted to fly planes. I knew that he had trained with the only African American pilot who had traveled around the world. I knew that. And I went on air every night to remind our viewers that this was a side to Trayvon Martin, a side that had not been told. And I will never forget when his mother came to me crying and held me and said, "Thank you for giving a voice to my son. Thank you for giving a voice to our family." So remember always, speak for those who do not have a voice. Key number 3, seek out those who can amplify your voice. Every decision I have learned that will ever be made about your career will be made in a room when you aren't there. Every decision. Should you get the job? Should you get the project? Should you get the degree? Should you get the promotion? They will decide that without you. So you need a champion, someone who will amplify your voice. You need a champion who has political capital, who will be in that room and is willing to spend the capital on you. Willing to spend the capital on you. I've had wonderful champions in my life. Of course, my parents, of course, my family, but I remember Louis Del Valle of the EOP program here, who guided this 16-year-old girl who had no money. I was here on a full scholarship. I had never seen this campus. I got the letter, I got the money, and I came. And he guided me and told me, "You can do it." And he was my champion, and he amplified my voice. Find someone, graduates, within the power structure who will advocate for you, and be intentional about finding that person, because that person can come in all shapes and forms, and that person may be sitting right next to you. Fourth, and this is a big one, speak kindly to yourself. It's so easy to punish yourself for every imperfection you perceive. I used to do it. I'm lying. I still do it. I've gotten better, I think. Even as I was working as a federal prosecutor specializing in child sexual abuse, where, by the way, I never lost a case. Even then, thank you, I always thought I should have said this better. I should have found that extra witness. How can my work be more important? I can be doing more to help people. That kind of thinking only gave me terrible anxiety and self-doubt. I threw up after each and every argument. I threw up before I got to trial. None of that really helped anybody, least of all myself. So give yourself permission to be imperfect. Maybe you switched majors. I did. Biology was just not my thing. Too bad it only took me 2.5 years to figure that out. Maybe you still don't know what you want to do. Maybe it took you longer than 4 years to get your degree. It took me 5. Any 5-year programs in the house? A couple of you. Trust me, you're gonna be all right. If you care enough to notice imperfections, that means you're out there and you're doing it. And sometimes just getting yourself out there is the most difficult barrier of all, so speak kindly to yourself. And finally, the fifth and last key to making your voice matter is this. Please use your own voice. No one can do you better than you can do you. And that sounds obvious, but it's very, very challenging. It's so easy to want to imitate a hero. I know when I started my career on television, I pretended to be Soledad O'Brien. I cut my hair, I dyed my hair, and I spoke, I thought, like Soledad. It wasn't working. So to go into a career because it's what your parents want you to do, because it seems like a good way to make money, because, I don't know, law school, why not? Your voice, your passion, your purpose is uniquely and authentically your own. And people will not understand your voice because it does not belong to them. They will not understand your dreams because they were given to you divinely, authentically. So if they don't understand those dreams and your passion and your perceived purpose and your voice, too bad. It was meant for you. I didn't come into my own until I realized that. And now I'm learning to be the best version of myself. Each one of you has an equally unique voice. Whatever it is, whoever you are, be that person as best you can be. I met a woman recently at a play called 3 Tall Women. It's a wonderful play. It's about the evolution of a woman through life. If you get the chance to be in New York City, you must see it. Her name was Heidi. And after the play, I was sitting in the audience alone, I thought, crying, because it just sort of gave this 360 view of life. And she came up to me, and she recognized me, and she said this: "Remember, Sonny, the hand that you hold the longest throughout your life is your own." And I thought it was so profound. The hand that you hold the longest throughout your life is your own. So you alone control the volume, the quality, and the content of your voice. Do not deny yourself, your family, your community, and our world what only you can offer. The world needs your voice to speak for those who haven't found their own, to speak to those who may not look or think or act like you. The world needs your voice, and I am so very proud of the 2018 graduates of Harpur College of the State University of New York. Be well, and God bless, and Godspeed.